ஹலோ ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ், வெல்கம் டு ட்ராவல் பட்ஸ் தமிழ். நம்மளோட சேனலில் ஷிகாகோவோட சீரீஸ் ஆஃப் எபிசோட்ஸ் பார்த்துட்ருக்கோம். அதில் இன்றைக்கி நீங்கள் பார்க்க போகிற வீடியோ ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்கான ஷிகாகோவோட ஆர்கிடெக்சர் வியூ. இந்த ஆர்கிடெக்சர் டூர் பார்த்திங்கனாக்கா ஷிகாகோவிலே ரொம்ப ஃபேமஸ். ஏன்னா ஷிகாகோவோட மெயின் அட்ராக்ஷனே பார்த்திங்கனாக்கா ஷிகாகோவோட ஹை ரைஸ் ஸ்கைராப்பர் பில்டிங்ஸ். இந்த டூர் பார்க்குறதுக்காக நம்ம போட்டூர் போகிறோம். இப்போ நம்ம அதுக்காக தான் நடந்து போயிட்டுருக்கோம். இந்த போட்டூரில் 50+ ஃபேமஸ் ஷிகாகோ பில்டிங்கோட ஈச் அண்ட் எவ்ரி டீட்டெயில், லைக் எப்போ அந்த பில்டிங் கட்டியிருக்காங்க, அந்த பில்டிங்கோட ஸ்பெஷாலிட்டி என்ன, அந்த மாதிரி ரொம்ப டீட்டெயில்டு இன்ஃபர்மேஷனை அழகாக சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. அந்த இன்ஃபர்மேட்டிவ் வீடியோவை நீங்களும் என்னோட பார்த்து என்ஜாய் பண்ணுங்கள். நீங்கள் இப்போ தான் நம்மளோட சேனலை பார்க்குறீங்கன்னா மறக்காமல் சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்கள். அண்ட் இஃப் யூ லைக் மை வீடியோ ப்ளீஸ் ஷேர் இட் வித் யுவர் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ். நீங்கள் ஷிகாகோ சீரியஸோட மற்ற வீடியோஸ் எதுவும் பார்க்கல அப்படின்னாக்க அதை நான் டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன் பாக்ஸில் ஆட் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். மறக்காமல் அதையும் பார்த்து என்ஜாய் பண்ணுங்கள்.
And as I mentioned, to our right we've got the Regents Hotel, completed by Epstein and Sons back in the 1970s. The largest hotel in the city, home to over 2,000 rooms. But if you begin to look behind it, you'll find a tall white skyscraper with the black vertical lines. This is the Aeon Center, fourth tallest building here in the city of Chicago, completed back in 1974 by architect Edward Stone. This building was originally clad in Italian white Carrara marble. Same marble Michelangelo used on his David. Now he clapped this building here about a half an inch thick, which was too thin. It did not survive a few of Chicago's harsh winters. You see the marble, it began to crack, and we fear that it began to fall on people's heads. So we had to go up there and replace it with North Carolina granite. The project costed an estimated $80 million. You know, that just goes to show you cannot take marble for granted. I don't typically do that joke, but today I was feeling bolder. Back off and to our right, you'll find the skyscraper with the white undulating patios. This is Aqua Towers, and this was the tallest building in the world, designed by a female architect. And it's designed by Chicago native Jeannie Gang. Now, the building was completed back in 2009, and those white undulating patios, it gives the building that water-rippling effect alongside of it. At its base, it is home to the Radisson Blu Hotel. The upper floors, they are condominiums. The penthouse of Aquila Towers was once owned by Lady Gaga. After the break, you'll find the Swiss Hotel, completed by architect Harry Reese. Now, he loved the maritime theme, he loved to sail. He designed this building here to look like the bow of a ship. But you cannot miss the next building that has just been completed with the beautiful turquoise glass. This is known as the St. Regents. It is taking the place of the third tallest building here in the city of Chicago. It's also taking the place of my personal favorite building here in the city. And it's once again designed by Chicago native Jeannie Gang. She has outdone herself for the tallest building in the world, designed by a female architect. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look up, you'll notice they have taken out the 81st to 83rd floor. They're going to leave this completely open. This will now be what's known as a flow-through floor. They're going to allow the wind to blow through that floor to alleviate the wind stress in the tallest stack here, so it does not sway so much. If you look just one step down to its left at the second tallest stack, the penthouse of it is just signature lounge. And if you happen to be a lady, visit the restroom. Why? You will get the best view down Michigan Avenue. The green glass building to our right is the Sheraton Hotel, completed by Solomon, Corwell & Binns back in 1992. It's the fourth largest hotel here in Chicago. It's one of many buildings that has that green glass paying homage to the color of the river. This is where all of the presidents stay when they are visiting the city of Chicago. It's most easily blocked off for public access. It's also home to a ballroom that's about 40,000 square feet. That's the size of a football field. Can host a party of about 4,000 people here. As we're passing it, look to our soft right out there in the distance. You're noticing a building that has an onion-shaped dome on its top. That's the Hotel Intercontinental, completed by architect Walter Alswager back in 1924. When the building first opened, it was home to the Madonna Men's Club. A famous Olympian used to work on our train here, Johnny Weissmuller, the first Tarzan. Now, to the right of that onion-shaped dome, you're noticing the structure. That's known as a parapet. We're going to use it to load and offload airships, and then the Hindenburg happened. But if you've ever visited Rockefeller Center in New York City, directly to our right, you'll find the centerpiece. This is our NBC Tower, completed by Skidmore, Owens & Merrill. Now, the green glass building is the Glacier Center, the University of Chicago's downtown campus, completed by architect Kurt Lohan. This building is home to 27 classrooms, all that we cannot see. That's because they're all behind the stone walls on the west side of the building. When we asked architect Dirk Lohan why he built the building this way, he replied, students should not be gazing outside the windows, they should be inside studying and learning. Now, he may have been on to something because the school has produced over 90 Nobel Prize winners, second only to Harvard. If you have an Apple iPhone, feel free to take your phone down, take a photo of the Apple Store coming up to our right. Completed by a British architect, his name's Sir Norman Foster. From his top perspective, it is set to resemble a MacBook. Now, this Apple Store is conveniently located in a place where you can buy your Apple phone and drop it in the river the same day. But I do want to look back off and to our left and talk a little bit more about the London Guarantee and Accidents building. I want to mention the style of architecture that it's designed in. It's designed in the French Beaux-Arts style of architecture. French Beaux-Arts buildings typically have a decorated base, a stack of floors, and a decorated top. After passing the bridge, we'll look to the right of it, noticing the London House. It's a boutique hotel added on a few years ago by Gesher Partners. It's named London House because at the base of the London Guarantee and Accidents building, there's a jazz nightclub with the same name. But the next building we'll talk about, it's the second tallest here in the city of Chicago, Trump International Hotel and Tower. Completed by architect Adrian Smith back in 2009. The building stands at 1,362 feet tall, homes of 472 condominiums, a 5-star restaurant, and a 5-star hotel. Now, if anyone here has ever heard of the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, that building stands at 2,722 feet tall. If you look to the top of Trump Towers, stack another Trump Towers on top of it. This will equal the same height of the Burj Khalifa. Architect Adrian Smith, he designed both of the buildings. Trump Towers, as I mentioned, it was home to about 472 condominiums. The penthouse here sold just last year for about $17 million. To a family in the suburbs, it's their second home. If anyone here has ever seen the film The Dark Knight, and you remember that ending fight scene with the Joker in the building that is still being constructed, it's happening at Trump Towers. Now, the black box structure, this is AMA Plaza, formerly known as the IBM building. Completed by a German architect back in 1971, his name, Mies van der Rohe. The building is completed in his international style of architecture. He believed there should be zero ornamentations alongside his buildings. His philosophy, less is more. The only ornamentation for this building is the icons. But if you have your cameras out, in front of us you'll find the two most photographed buildings in the city of Chicago. This is Marina City, or known by their nicknames, the Corn Cob of the Midwest. Completed by a student of Mies van der Rohe, his name Bertrand Goldberg. He did not agree with it less is more philosophy. He believes since there are no right angles in nature, there should be none in architecture. We're not going to find any right angles in the two buildings here. Now, when Bertrand Goldberg was going to construct these two buildings, Mies van der Rohe called him and he asked, "Are you seriously going to put these two buildings up next to mine?" He replied, "Yes." And this was the last they ever spoke to each other. When you walk into your apartment here, it's extremely narrow. Widens as you walk throughout the apartment, shaped sort of like a pizza pie or pizza. Each floor connected to a central stem, think of petals on a flower. When the buildings first opened, they were thought to be a city within a city, having their own ice skating rink, bowling alley, movie theater, grocery store, even the platinum room that we just passed. If you've ever seen the films, The Blues Brothers, and Steve McQueen's last film, The Hunter, they were filmed there. That 1979 Pontiac was driven off the 17th floor into the Chicago River. Speaking of the river, I know a lot of people typically tend to think that this river is green, Due to the fact that we died on St. Patrick's Day, this is not the case. The Chicago River is green because this is a clay-based river and it mixes with the lake water and algae. When dyeing the river green on St. Patrick's Day, we use 40 pounds of vegetable dye. It turns the river a bright jelly green. The color of the dye happens to be orange and it lasts about 3 or 4 days. Now the Redbird building, this is the Aeon Center, completed by George Nimitz back in 1914. Now the building sheathed in that red brick, at the top you'll find some terracotta ornamentation of the wheat. If you are looking at the building completely, it does look asymmetrical. This was not always the case. You see, they needed to knock out one of the west side bays here to make room for the expansion of the LaSalle Street Bridge. The building was originally home to a warehouse, now home to 2 restaurants, condominium office space, Whirlpool, and Encyclopedia Britannica. But if there are any engineers on board, the next building, it's an engineering masterpiece. After the bridge, we're going to find 300 North LaSalle, completed by Pentagon Children back in 2009. This is a LEED certified building. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. This building here, it holds a platinum rating. That is the highest award that the building can achieve. Basically like winning an Academy Award for a building. Now it also has a green roof, which mitigates rainfall, has plants, trees, and vegetation. Chicago has more green buildings than any other city in the United States. Now we cannot miss the massive structure after the bridge here. This is our merchandise mart, completed back in 1931 by Graham Anderson Homes and White. The building's designed in the Art Deco style of architecture. Art Deco buildings typically have the geometrical ornamentations, vertical lines working your eyes up, and set back to the top. Now this was the largest concrete structure in the world when it opened. Today it's only second to what building? The Pentagon is correct. The building sits on 5 city blocks. It is 4.25 million square feet of space. Up into the year 1996, the building had its own zip code. Now the building was originally used to consolidate 14 of Marshall Field's warehouses, now home to over 500 showrooms for accessory inventory and furniture wholesale. The building, it sold to the Kennedy family back in 1945 for about $13 million in back taxes. In the year 1998, the Kennedy family sold the building for $575 million. They decided to keep the land off into our right here. This is known as Wolf Point, and they are developing it at the moment. They have Wolf Point East and West already completed. Wolf Point East is 750 feet tall. Wolf Point West 570 feet tall. Salesforce, it will be the last of the 3 buildings at 950 feet tall. Now, Wolf Point is also a very historic and important place for Chicago. Because here, this is where we have our first drugstore, church, bridge throughout the Chicago River, and tavern. Now, it's also where we get our name, Chicago. Now, the locals, they were in a tavern and they raised a tinker. What are we going to call this place? They came up with the name Chicago based off the words they heard the natives using, Chicago. They just did not know that they translated into wild, smelly onions. As we begin to who parks their car for them. Now the red brick building, this is the Fulton House, completed by Frank D. Abbott back in 1908. It was an old cold storage warehouse utilized for milk, butter, and eggs. Was renovated by Harry Reese back in the 1980s. He needed to allow the building to be thawed for about 18 months. He took out over 500 truckloads of horsehair from the building. It was insulated with cork and horsehair. Looking alongside the building, you'll notice these starfish in the porthole windows. As I mentioned, Harry Reese, he loved the maritime theme, he loved to sail. Also evident in the cottages that he designed here. These are the Chicago River cottages, completed by... You'll find another massive building. This one is known as the Domain, completed by Smith, Gordon, and Martin back in 1908. This was the original warehouse for Montgomery Ward. It's about 1.25 million square feet of space, heavily influenced by the prairie style of architecture by Frank Lloyd Wright. We will not find any of these buildings on the tour today. Just wanted to let you know it's influenced by the prairie style of architecture that typically uses the horizontal lines. Now the building was renovated by Papa George and Haynes When he went to renovate the building, he found over 250 pairs of roller skates in the basement. Why? Well, that's because Montgomery Ward wanted his workers filling out orders quickly and efficiently. So he had them roller skating up and down the corridors, filling out orders. To our right, probably the only man-made island here in the city of Chicago, formerly known as Ogden Island, now known as Goose Island, gets his name Ogden in honor of our first mayor, William B. Ogden. He drugged this island to excavate. Ladies and gentlemen, I've visited a lot of different cities all throughout the country and around the world. I do not believe that you're going to find this city as beautiful as Chicago architecturally, in my opinion. Also, not to point out any eyesores, but if you're looking to your left, you may be able to notice one of our competitors' vessels. I don't typically say anything bad about them, I just noticed one thing. Typically, our structure is River Point, opened 4 years ago in 2017. It's another LEED certified building, certified gold, made of about 55% recycled materials. But you may have noticed that the next building, it looks like it's been built upside down. This is 150 North Riverside, completed by Gas and Partners. The building, it has to be built this way. It's built over active switching tracks. Now, if you take your cameras out and you look up, you can take a photo of yourself in the reflection of the building. That's pretty unique. Now, to give you an idea as to how narrow the base of this building is, it's about 40 feet wide. That's as wide as the boat that we're on here today. The building, it does get wider as it goes to the top. There's also something very unique at the top of the building that we cannot see. It's something known as a mass damper system. Essentially, it's a giant tank containing about 160,000 gallons of water. It's on the swing of the building when it wants to be blown by the wind. You see, the building is built like a tuning fork. So when it wants to be blown east by the wind, 160,000 gallons of water goes to the west end of the building, all computer automated. To your right, we've got 100 North Riverside. The building's home to the Boeing headquarters, which is home to a Boeing store for all of your Boeing needs. Now, it's a 36-story building built with a 13-story lower half, completed by Perkins well back in the year 1990. I want to draw your attention to the 5 vertical beams on the east side of the lower half here. That was keeping this east side structurally supported. Once we pass the bridge, this will be one of the few times during the tour when I will ask for you to turn around. You'll notice that the south and west side corners, they are not being supported by any beams. They're being supported by these white X bracings at the top, which are known as trusses. Now, to give you an idea as to how these trusses are essentially working, you can think about the way that I'm holding this cup of ice in my hand, basically holding it or suspending it in midair. Essentially, this is how those trusses are working, holding the south and west side corners in midair. To our right, we've got 2 North Riverside Plaza, completed by Halliburton Group back in 1927. One of the first buildings erected over the rail system. Now, it was used as a concert venue up until the year 1971, home to the Daily News printing press. It's now home to one of our Wendella water taxi stops. Now, the next few buildings that we will talk about, they are all completed by the architecture firm Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. In the first 2 buildings, Gateway Centers 1 and 2, there was principal architect Bruce Graham. Same architect who helped design the Sears and Willis Tower in the John Hancock Center. These buildings, they are twins, 22 stories in the international style of architecture. He's paying homage to Mies van der Rohe. Now, he also did something very unique with the land here. He left no wall. He wanted you to be able to see the Metro and the Amtrak trains going in and out of the stations. The Metro trains, they take you to our surrounding suburbs. Amtrak trains other cities here in the United States. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. Since there is no wall here, it must be terrible to work in these 2 buildings, right? Well, the architect, he took this into consideration. These buildings, they are sound and vibration proof. We are smelling 0 diesel fumes. At the base of the buildings, there are vents that sucks up those fumes and spits it out the top of the buildings. It's genius. In front of the boat to the right, the building plan in white, this is the former Gateway Center 3, now known as the Fifth Third Center. The original plan for this building was for it to look like Gateway Centers 1 and 2. Not approved by the city of Chicago because we were tired of having these boring buildings be built alongside the river. So we made them change their design. The building is now precast white paint aluminum and it's a 40-story building. But after passing the bridge, we're going to find a black box structure that has X-braces. This is the former Mid-America Commodities Exchange. These X-bracings, they are designed by Dr. Fazla Khan. He was thought to be the Einstein of engineering. You see, these X-bracings, they are the only support for the building. They also allow for it to have the massive windows. You see, it was home to a stock trading facility, and stock traders, they were trading across the river using hand signals. Looking back at the building, you'll see that they have zero respect for history because today it's now home to a fitness center right next to a donut shop. After passing the bridge, we'll find the last of the Gateway Centers, one of my favorite buildings on the tour today, completed by James DeStefano back in 1986. When he completed the building, he was criticized for putting zero ornamentation alongside the building. His reasoning, he wanted to use the surrounding buildings as the ornamentation. Notice how the building reflects 300 South Wacker in a kaleidoscopic effect. This is able to happen using two types of glasses, convex and concave glasses. Now this is the largest of the Gateway Centers. But as I mentioned early on in the tour, if you have ever seen the film, The Dark Knight, and you remember that opening scene when the Joker's robbing the bank. He's not robbing a bank, he's robbing our former main post office here, the main lobby of it. Completed by Grant Anderson Robeson White back in 1933, the building is heavily influenced by the Art Deco style of architecture, and it's about 2.25 million square feet of space. Why do we need such a massive post office? Well, we're home to major catalog companies, Sears and Roebuck, Spiegel. If you do not get them right, you cannot leave the boat. You gotta help me clean up, sir. All right, next question. What country produces the most coffee? Brazil is correct. You got it at the same time. Oh, you know each other. Next question. What country consumes the most chocolate per capita? Not Sweden, not Belgium, not the US. Switzerland is correct. Switzerland is correct. You're doing well, but this is when things start to get strange. McDonald's, they started right here in Des Plaines, Illinois. Typically the arches for McDonald's, they are yellow. In what city in the US are they not yellow but green?
Sedona.
Sedona, Arizona is correct. All right. Why to match the landscape? Next question. I'll let you know the fifth graders missed this one. What was the original filling of a Hostess Twinkie? Not cream cheese. Not cream cheese. Not that item, sir. Not mayonnaise.
Buttercream.
Not buttercream. Not lard. Banana cream is correct. What's a Twinkie filled with today? You got it there? What's a Twinkie filled with today? Nobody knows. What's the shelf life of a Twinkie? Forever. All right, we've got a 4-part question, ladies and gentlemen. What's the most recognized logo in the world? Not Pepsi, not Nike, not Apple. Coca-Cola is correct. What's second? Not Nike. McDonald's is correct. What's third? Not John Deere. Not Ford. Not Disney. It's on your shoes. Nike is correct. What's fourth? It's on your phone. Apple is correct. A few more questions, and if you get them right, you get to get off of the boat. Next questions. What state has produced the most astronauts? Ohio is correct. For some reason, everyone wants to leave Ohio. I'm not sure why. The state of Illinois has produced 4 presidents, but only one was born here. What's his name? Not Grant, not Lincoln, not Cleveland, not Obama, he's from Hawaii. Ronald Reagan is correct. Dixon, Illinois. What state has produced the most presidents? Ohio. Virginia is correct. How do you know that? Nice. You're from Virginia? That's cheating. Ladies and gentlemen, you did pretty well. Give yourselves a round of applause. You did pretty good. You did pretty good. Alright, we're going to pick the tour back up after passing the bridge here. And we're going to find the tallest building in the world when completed back in 1974. Formerly known as the Cinder Tower, now known as the Willis Tower. Standing at 1,454 feet tall, 442 meters, 110 stories. Completed by Bruce Graham with Dr. Boattour Company is Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. The building is completed in what is known as bundled tubular construction. You see the building's essentially 9 separate boxes bundled together at varying heights. This is to help with the wind swing of the building. You see on a very windy day, this building can sway about 18 inches in each direction. Workers in those top floors say that on those windy days, they can go into the bathrooms and see the water in the toilets sloshing around. That would give me a heart attack, but it's also an automatic bidet. Now, the pink building after the bridge, 311 South Wacker, completed by Cone, Pedersen, and Fox back in 1990. This is the tallest building in the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Completed by Fulton House and Johnson back in 1986. When the building first opened, it was home to 2 separate towers. It was not until they merged with the Chicago Board of Trade that they pushed the trading floor in the center here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see something unique on the tour, at the end of the building, I will be pointing out a bridge house that was built before the building. I want you to see exactly how close they have built this building to this bridge house. So ladies and gentlemen, you can see that the building is only inches away from the bridge house. That's some fine engineering, if you ask me. After the bridge, we're finding the Civic Opera building, completed by Grant Anderson Boats in white back in the 1930s. The building has a French Renaissance style of architecture outside and a very beautiful interior Art Deco lobby. It's home to our lyric opera company in the city, and the faces that we are seeing, they are tragedy and comedy. As we are beginning to pass the building, I do have to talk about a very well-known legend that goes along with it here in the city of Chicago. Now, there is a man named Samuel Insull, and he invested a lot of his fortune into this building. That's because he had himself a mistress who was an opera singer in New York City. She was no good there in New York, did not want her. He said, come to the city of Chicago, I'll build your own opera house. The year is 1930. He invested about $18 million of his own funds into this building. When she comes to the city of Chicago, she's still no good. Stock market crashed in just a few short years. He lost all of his fortune, including his mistress. If you want to turn around and look back at the building, you'll notice how it resembles a giant high-back armchair. It has the nickname Insull's Throne. Notice how it is facing west in the back of it east, turning its back on New York, like New York did its mistress. The building to our right was completed by the same architecture firm who designed 150 North Riverside, the upside-down building. You'll notice that they both have the pretty narrow bases. This one has the 3 skylights. It's a 40-story building and features what's known as a pocket park. After passing the bridge, we're going to find a pretty important piece of history off to the right side of the boat. And no, I am not talking about the Starbucks. I'm talking about the red brick building. This is the Great Lakes building completed by Halliburton Roche back in the year 1912. Chicago fired 1871. Columbian's Exposition of 1893, in the Century of Progress Fair of 1933. we've begun the docking process, so I just want to have everyone remain seated. Also at this time, if anyone is enjoying an adult beverage, time to play one of my favorite games, Chug It or Chuck It. So sorry you can't take it off the boats, folks. This is not New Orleans. Now I do want to take this time to thank you all for coming out choosing Wendella, because if you didn't, I would not be able to do my job. As I mentioned, my name's Kenneth. I'm a born and raised Chicago, and I love doing my job here. I'll be the first person off of the boat at the base of the ramp to answer any last-minute questions that you may have. So on behalf of the captain, the crew, the entire Wendella family, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your stay in the city of Chicago.